What's up? Y'all know the drill. Come on in, grab your chapstick, get you a little water. I got a couple bottles of water in the back. Sit on down. Let me read you this word real quick. The beginning of the words of his mouth is foolishness, and the end of his talk is mischievous madness. Let's get on with the show. If you don't know where you are, this is Gregory the Podcast. I'm your host, Gregory, and I've got something to say. So, today I want to tell you guys a story before we get into the actual topic of today. But they're connected, so just hang tight, all right? So, if you guys didn't know, I am a 28-year-old U.S. Army veteran. And I remember the first time talking to a recruiter, I was about 17, and I did like the tail end of my junior year, right before going into my senior year, because I want to say my contract was signed in December of my senior year of high school. But like I had made all these moves without telling like family, friends, and things like that, right? When I did sit down to tell them, which was, I think I signed the contract in December, so I probably talked to them like right after I turned 18 in that October. So somewhere between like the end of October and like the first 2 weeks of November, because I had all these other things to do during that time, right? And it's so funny because like I have a mom, a stepdad, a stepmom, and a dad. So there's two separate households right there. I have friends, I have family, like I went to school with and stuff like that. And you know, it's crazy because it all resulted in pretty much the same question. Why are you willing to fight for a country that doesn't give a damn about you? And before you guys just like write me off and like turn it off right there, I just want you to know, like, the funny thing is they asked me this and I didn't have an answer. The only answer I came up with at that time was, I wanted to travel, I wanted to be able to make money, and I wanted to pay for college. Now, yes, I've traveled. Yes, I've made money. Yes, I went to college. I didn't graduate because I didn't care to stay. I decided to focus on building a particular career for myself. Let's just say that. While I also have to admit, within those 7 years, I spent 7 years trying to prove my worth, my respect, and my ability, not only to myself, but to my subordinates, my peers, and my superiors. Now, before we get into the topic today, I do want to say that I'm not ungrateful for the time, experiences, bonds, or even the lifestyle I live now because of my previous choices. However, but I think everyone can agree that when you have a job, a career, you can have highlights. You can have some of the grandest times. You can meet some of the grandest people. You, of course, are going to have low times because every job doesn't come without its ebbs and flows, you know? But I want to say that, like, yes, you can have good times and you can still be able to call out the atrocities, the fascism, the racism, the homophobia, and misogyny that is experienced in the workplace, not only by peers, subordinates, superiors, but the entire system itself. Right? All right, so now I'm sure you're all thinking, where is this going? Well, if you haven't heard, a recent first-term congressman from Arizona, Mr. Eli Crane, while trying to argue new amendments to a defense policy bill, he ended up referring to Black service members as colored people. And then when Chin checked about it, said, oh no, I meant people of color. And then there were so many of his constituents that got out there and was like, no, he meant people of color. Well, first off, let me read off what his political page says about him. Mr. Eli Crane is a faith-oriented family man, is pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, and unafraid to take a stand against cancel culture and the radical left. See, when you start your bios with this anti-wokeism blanket language, I already know where you stand on policy, so I'm not really shocked at the fact that you threw out colored people. Also, I think this is one of those times, and I hate to have to be a hotep, but I think this is one of those times when we are distracted by the foolish thing that came out of his mouth versus the thing that he was attempting to do, right? And although it makes the hemorrhoids flare up for me to have to ignore this point of him just like blatantly saying that, or like the fact that like Congress and Senate have been getting away with blatantly saying like racist and like homophobic and like transphobic things on the floor when there's so many other things we could be concerned about, right? But let's get into this defense policy bill that he was supposed to be arguing, right? So after looking at some of the points in the legislation, one of the first things that he was arguing is that there should be no abortion reimbursement for service members, which means for those states where service members are stationed who need an abortion, because there's only certain abortions covered anyway under the covered abortion policy. And those abortions are one, where the fetus is technically deadly to the mother, or two, where you have a fetus due to some darker situation covered under the SA umbrella. That's what we're going to say on that. Now, that being because just recently they banned abortions at a federal level, you would have to travel to get your abortion done to whatever state was nearby where you felt comfortable with going. Now, they're saying you're going to have to travel free of charge on your own dime to get this abortion, whether you need it or not. And the problem we have with this is I don't think people really understand what women are experiencing in the service. Not only are they having to put up with, obviously, the sexual harassment and the sexual assault, these are still women. These are still everyday women, especially when they come in on the younger side, the 18 to 24 side, where they have to navigate becoming a woman, navigate sexuality, navigate their own sexualness, navigate womanhood along with being a soldier, and not to mention some of them have to navigate being a wife and a mother on top of being a soldier, which is absolutely crazy behavior. And then to have to tell them you're not getting reimbursed for an abortion when you literally look down upon them when they get pregnant and can't go on deployments and things. You literally it's so funny because you have Friday night safety briefings, and if it's before rotations or things like that, you all be like, don't nobody come back pregnant on Monday or Tuesday. You literally have said these things out loud, and you didn't have people in Congress saying, yeah, no, pay for your own abortions. We don't do that here. Sir, are you serious? So another one of the points that they were trying to argue under this whole defense policy bill thing was no hormonal or gender affirming care. They don't want the defense this to be covered in the defense's budget and stuff like that. I know when we talk about gender affirming care, I'm not trying to tiptoe through this. I don't want to get too deep into it because a lot of y'all need to sit down and actually do the research. Because it's not what you think it is. So a lot of times when you hear about gender affirming care, especially when it's sought out in these political lightings, it is what I would like to call, they surface level cover it. They only talk about hormone blockers being used in teenage people who want to do what they're doing with their gender, right? Minding their business, by the way. This is the only time you often hear about hormone therapy. However, there's a niche group of people who would also know about hormone therapy. People who suffer from different medical conditions, right? Because hormone therapy is actually used to treat a number of things. It's honestly going to be used oftentimes in certain cancers that are related to hormone triggers, specifically prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and breast cancer. I want you to think about these things because service members are not immune from getting cancer, my love. Women who have a little bit of an overgrowth of facial hair. This is usually due to a hormonal situation, and sometimes they use hormones to treat this. It's not clear cut, and it's not quite as simple. And I think you all are allowing people to lead you with the hate blinders on, and they're leading you to a space of damnation because understand, they're not unpacking everything that's involved with this. They're just showing you one group of people that you all have agreed to demonize. And I have to say it like this because in history this has been done before. People turn their hate on a specific group of people who they give you the characteristics to demonize, and we turn our hate towards these people, and this is how we carry on with half-ass information being given to us. So I implore you, and if you would like to, we can have a deeper conversation about hormonal therapy, but it is not cut and clear as just like transgender care. For those of you who are like specifically in the pop culture rings, facial feminization surgeries, a lot of your female stars are having this to like soften the look of their face without changing it too much. It is just to give it a softer appearance. This is gender affirming care. And a lot of your like cisgendered women, rappers, pop stars, R&B stars are getting this stuff done. So I want you guys to like, I caution you when you are just like throwing around terms or allowing people to throw around terms in front of your face and you are just going with the flow of it because you're like, yeah, they don't deserve. Make sure you're not in that group of people. I'm just saying, you're throwing rocks at a house that you live in at this point. And one of the main points that they were also happy to be throwing in there was it's an amendment to stop diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives within the Pentagon, within recruitment, promotions, and retentions within the military service. And this is where the clip comes into play, where he's just like, oh yeah, we don't want our military to be a social experiment. We want it to be tough. I think that's so interesting. Right? Because, and let me back up. I think it's so interesting because a lot of times you'll see service members and they a lot of the times think that these diversity, equity, and inclusion systems are only brought on to support Black people. They think of it very similar to how that Asian man was weaponizing affirmative action, right? And let me tell you something about a lot of people who like jump on these bandwagons to champion behind removing affirmative action and champion behind removing these diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Let me tell you about how you guys are jumping on this bandwagon. You are choosing to help the weapon prosper and you don't know you all are going to fall with it. Let me explain something, right? Any woman that is sitting in a superior position of power, so we're talking like your E7s and higher at the base level, your E7s and higher, so like your senior leadership, right? Any woman who's sitting there, especially if she's a woman of color, I want you to ask her what the people had said when she got promoted, whether she deserved it or not, how she earned her promotion. I'm not just picking on them, I'm making an example because I want you to look at anybody who's Black in a high-ranking position of leadership. They all say they don't deserve to be there and that they got it for whatever reason, being part of whatever marginalized community. See, this is the problem. A lot of people don't see what's going on here is they took affirmative action and they took it a step further, and everybody thinks that this is going to only affect Black people, so they're only like turned in a blind eye to this, when these diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives is how everybody gets promoted. Because when we talk about senior leadership, a lot of times what companies do is they try to spread the love. They try to make it not look so white. And that's the truth of the situation. They try to not make it look so white, because you have to remember, women, that is a marginalized community. Women of color, that is another marginalized community. Black women, that's a different marginalized community. Hello, Latino women, that's a different marginalized community. Those are 4 marginalized communities, and we haven't even gotten to the queers yet, okay? We haven't even gotten to the Black people yet, okay? Those are just the ones who are represented alone by these DEIs, right? And the thing is, people are so quick. They're so quick to throw them away, talking about let's do this. So it has nothing to do with promotion. You have to earn it. You have to be better. If we actually had to be better, if you thought these were absolutely necessary, then call the leaders out. If you think you have leaders in your service right now that are not fit to lead your service, is that not? In my eyes, that looks very dangerous. That looks very dangerous. You are saying that there are leaders in position who are not fit to be there. They are only there because they are some sort of minority. That's what this says. And you were worried about culture wars in the military. Does this not strike them? This looks like gasoline in a match to me, personally. And my problem is there's so many people, veterans of color, veterans without color, and that think they're not that these things don't affect people. They don't affect the people that look like them. You see, a lot of the black soldiers are just watching. A lot of the black veterans, we're just watching because we're looking at how you guys are behaving. We are looking at how you guys talk about allyship, how you talk about champion around, while they seemingly keep trying to poke and take things that you guys only think affect black Americans. And it's so interesting because when we invite you to the party, when we invite you to the cookout, hun, we invite you to the cookout because it's all love and we feel like everybody deserves to eat. On that note,